Yes. Hello. Apparently, we are back on the live stream. Let me know if you can see and hear me. Machka had to fix the live stream. She was the most helpful kitten based on everything I was hearing. All right, we are back. Yes, Machka is pressing buttons. I hear Apple TV noise, and I thought it was my TV for a second. Apparently, the Apple TV decided to freeze literally the second we went live. So that's great. Um, yes, hello. Hi from Baker City, which, if you don't know, is in Eastern Oregon, Northeastern Oregon, and is a stop on the Oregon Trail. So there's the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center out here. It's a town of about 11,000 people, most notably for just being kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's in between on Highway 84, in between La Grande and Ontario, neither of which I would describe as particularly large cities either. But we had an event out here on Friday night and we took the bus here. Well, we had to, there's no more Greyhound because they canceled the Greyhound in January. And that meant that we had to go like extremely out of our way into Southwest Washington and the Tri Cities area to come back down here to Baker City. But yes, everything is very themed in here. Is that a countertop oven with French doors? It's a air fryer, if you can see it. That's also good eye. It's like an air fryer convection oven, does a bunch of different things. So this building that we're in is a warehouse commercial building from the 1890s. And the owners recently converted, I think, two of the spaces into living spaces, and then the rest of them are retail spaces, but they have these like incredible high ceilings. It's a kitchenette, but because we were here over a holiday weekend and in this town, a lot of stuff is only open Wednesday through Saturday, and that's on like a good week. A lot of businesses are closed a lot of the time. One of my sources that I interviewed this morning said that there's more money in Baker than there is places to spend it. So, and that in combination with both of us being vegetarian, we decided to stay somewhere with a kitchen, which was good because not a lot of places are terribly open today. So, on Labor Day, and a lot of them are closed on Monday anyway. So, um, do the cats deserve to get fed? I think the cats do deserve to get fed. Also, is my chat working? If I click my chat, will it go on the screen? Let's find out. Um, Unclear to me if that is actually going to happen. Um, yeah, the whole time that Aaron was like trying to fix the live stream because we're running this through a Zoom, I was just hearing on the other end, Machka, stop. David said, I feel like this is the definition of eclectic style. So I was chatting with the owner, and she's like from one of the very old families in Baker City that has been here for many, many generations. And her parents are have a lot of antiques, and she has been trying to slowly clear out their house with various things. I think it's pretty well appointed. I don't know if you can see like the living room kind of area over there, but it's pretty cute. I mean, I think anything with an exposed brick wall will end up, and really high ceilings will end up looking pretty good. So, the but it is very functional, I would say, and we have multiple rooms, which is nice. So the Louvre doors my father installed as a pantry in the late 70s. Absolutely. This is definitely a lot of stuff that was like you would find in a different time. The only thing is like they are only very recently using this as an Airbnb, like very fresh because they just did. It's a historic building, so they had to like go through all the renovations to historic standards and stuff. And they didn't have a hairdryer or an iron, which I feel like are like pretty standard things in an Airbnb, but they were nice enough to bring them to us. So they were like, "Oh, we'll bring you a iron and a hairdryer," which was nice. And but they have very like the stuff in the kitchen is very nice, but I had to Google a video of how to use the can opener because it was one of those like ones that like unpeels the edge of the can, and it took two of us. I have to say, I have to give more credit to Prakriti who got it before I did. I was busy looking at videos on the internet of how to use it. Um, so it sounds like people are doing well. It sounds like New Bold One has decided to stay up late to join us on the stream. Thank you so much for joining us on the very late stream for you all. Um, the I am doing the stream today because one, today is a holiday in the US, so it's like whatever, might as well do it today. But it's also our layover day, essentially. I did a little bit of reporting in the morning, and I will we leave tomorrow because the buses start running again and get back Wednesday. So, but we have to take it's a little complicated because I'm taking half buses and half a essential air service plane, and then my coworker is taking buses all the way back. So we'll find out how it goes. But we packed the room on Friday for the venue that we were at is a rock venue that's been out there for like, I think about 10 or 15 years, but it's in the old elementary school. So we had a event about transit on a Friday night, and we were also competing against a football game, which is a big deal in this town. And we still had like 60 people in a town of 10,000 people show up to talk about transit on a Friday night on a holiday weekend. So I thought that was pretty good. Everybody had these chairs apparently, those like little rattan chairs. Yeah, we didn't have them in my house, but definitely like three people that lived on my street had them in their house. Very classic 80s, early 90s chairs. I feel like you should do one of those Indiana Jones style maps to show your journey. We might end up doing that in the digital. We'll kind of have to find out. It's, I don't know, it's been interesting. I've been reporting mainly on a little bit on transit, but mainly on healthcare while I'm out here. The hospital in Baker City, which is called St. Alphonsus, got bought out by a larger Catholic hospital chain called Trinity Health couple years ago, and they closed the birth center early in 2023, and there's nowhere to have a kid now. There's just the ER, but they don't have any doctors that are obstetricians that have admitting privileges. They don't really have like a surgical suite, and the passes close like really commonly in the winter, but even in the summer for wildfires. So because of that, they are people are very upset about the birth center being closed. And I have interviewed two people that gave birth in pretty harrowing ways because it's 45 miles. If you live in Baker City proper, it's 45 miles to LeGrand, which does have a hospital with a birth center. Or a lot of people go to Boise because Boise is a more robust hospital because obviously it's a big city. But Boise is like 83 to 86 miles away. And then Baker City is the hospital for all these other also Oregon Trail towns like Halfway and Keating and Richland. And those are like even farther out. So football versus transit. I know what would win for me. Well, one of our panelists even did the panel and then she raced to the football game. So Ratan or Ratten. I don't know which is correct. That might be one of those things where I've never had to say it out loud. I'm curious. What does the internet say?
Rattan.
Ratan. Ratan. Okay, I think you're correct and I'm wrong. I think I may have, in my life, only read that word. Now I'm sure it'll come up where I'll need to know it on the radio or something, and I'll be so glad that I've looked it up. Yeah, so that's what we've been doing while we've been out here. We had uh, we also went out to a ranch. I got to ride horses on Saturday and meet a lot of cows and go through a forest, which is like a second and third growth forest that they do some sustainable forestry. We almost took the Sumter Valley Railway, which is this tiny little 6 mile railway that's in Sumter Valley, which you can look it up on a map if you want, but it's like not near much. It's close. Baker City is what it's close to, but it's only 6 miles. Apparently, like in the 80s and the 90s, you could take it into Baker City, which is about 20 miles away from Sumter. But they do fake robberies on the train. So like kids on it, they like have horses ride up next to the train and they like rob you and they make you like open the windows of the train and say, give us all your gold and everything. So I'd like to come back out to do that. It was already like getting fairly hot on the day that we were close to the Sumter Valley, and we didn't have like a plan for how we were going to get back because we had caught a ride out to the ranch with someone. So, but the Sumter Valley Railway does sound pretty cool. I would like to come back in the fall because there's a lot of really good foliage up in that area. We're at a fairly high elevation here. We're not like super duper high, but we're at like 3,400, 3,500 feet in elevation. So they get pretty extreme weather in the winter, which is a big factor in the healthcare. I bet some of the cow stories were very moving. Maybe I'll use that in the piece. No, the cows were not interested in being interviewed by us. Part of that was that one of the cow dogs was just a little aggressive, a little ready to round up the cows. And he's only one, so he wasn't, he was really trying to round up the cows as we were trying to interview the cows. New Bold One says, I'm guessing it's quite a rural area. Sumter, yes. The whole region that we're in is very rural. It's actually so rural that it's considered frontier by the government, not rural. So it's even more than rural. This town is one of the bigger towns for an 120-mile stretch. So it's like this is almost 11,000 people in Baker City. And then the next up, bigger city where the university is LeGrand. And that is 13,000. So it's like not even that much bigger, but the university is up there. So it feels bigger. And then Ontario is a similarly sized town, so like 11,000. But that's over like an 130, 40-mile stretch of highway. Those are the three biggest towns, and they're like 11,000. So it's really a small town reporting wise, which has been very helpful because every store we go into, they'll be like, oh, you're not from around here. What are you doing here? And I'd be like, oh, we're reporters. We're with Oregon Public Broadcasting. I'm reporting on healthcare and on the maternity ward closing. And then people just start telling me things. I've learned a lot of local drama. It helps. I have one of the journalists for the local paper was on the panel with me, and she's been helpful for some of the connections that we have locally. But yeah, it's been quite wild. But yeah, we've been like in multiple stores where people have then called up someone for us and been like, hey, this person has said that they Uh, yeah, it just really like people would be like, "Oh, are you?" Sorry, I got distracted by a text on my phone and I do not remember my sentence. Um, yeah, New Bob One says that's ultra rural. Well, I think it seems extra rural when you're in when you're in the United Kingdom because you can't like the distance that you go and you can get in like to a major metropolitan area is like not even the distance between villages here because Oregon is really spread out on this side of the state. People, I think, really don't have, I would say, even like East Coasters in the United States don't have a very good grasp on how spread out the western part of the US is. I think they tend to not recognize how big of states the west side of the US is. And it there, I mean, you can really drive for an extremely long period of time. There are no services in really big chunks of the state. So yeah. What is the size of Oregon versus UK size? Um, the state of Oregon is bigger than the United Kingdom. So just my state is bigger than the UK. We're 98,000 square miles and the UK is 93,000 square miles. And I think that's the United Kingdom, including obviously Scotland. So yeah. Imagine if there were like you drove from the you drove from the bottom of the United Kingdom all the way to the top of Scotland, and there were just two towns, like two towns of 10,000 people. My partner's from the middle of nowhere in California and now lives with me in Virginia. He teases me about our small East Coast states. Yeah, I did when I was writing the financial advice column for Slate. I wrote a thing about someone that like essentially it had inherited this like mostly useless piece of land in Connecticut and in a small town in Connecticut. And one of the things I said is like nothing is truly like isolated in Connecticut just because the distance to drive in Connecticut is not, you're always within, you know, man, some people from Connecticut got really angry, and I still hold to that. And people were trying to tell me that that you know they had visited my state on vacation and therefore knew about the distances around my state, and I just wanted to be like, no, you can if there are highways in Oregon that are hundreds of miles long that one car a day passes on or no cars a day pass on. We have like chunks of reservations in Oregon, like Native American reservations in Oregon that are the size of entire states in the East Coast United States. Like, I think this is also like why a lot of people, especially Europeans, make a lot of fun of Americans and how many Americans don't have passports and have never left the country. And in addition to the fact that like passports are expensive and not everybody has the resources to do that, I think people don't realize how big the United States is. And you could travel around the US and never leave the country, but still be extensively well traveled. So yeah. I just make fun of the size of Delaware. Yes, absolutely. Um, People outside of New York don't understand how spread out parts of New York are. Not quite as bad. Yeah, I taught a class upstate in New York, and I had to fly like one of the little puddle jumper flights into Ithaca. And then it was like a 3 hour drive from the Ithaca airport to the college that I was teaching at. And I was like, I knew that New York was spread out, but that was my first like glimpse into like, oh man, it's really, really spread out. Yeah, I know it's true. Every time you're in like Delaware, thank you for visiting Delaware. You know, Winter says my partner just got his first passport. Yeah, I mean, the passports are, it can be really intimidating. And for a lot of people that don't have a reason to do it, I think right now, if you have the option of getting a US passport, you should do it before, while we still have a Department of State and a somewhat strong passport if you're an American citizen. Um, Yeah, David says, I flew in and out of Ithaca many times. The 19-seater from Boston. I think that's the one that I was on. Something that I thought was really interesting is there are a lot of people that commute from Ithaca into the city, like, you know, college professors and stuff like that, that'll be in Ithaca, and then they'll go teach down in New York, or they'll teach in Boston, which I thought was like crazy. It's funny talking to our friend in the Netherlands when we talk about traveling a distance and we have totally different ideas. He feels like 2 hours is far. I know, absolutely. Well, and there's also like multiple ways to get somewhere that is 2 hours in the Netherlands. But like here, we had to take 7 buses to travel from Portland to Baker because there's no more Greyhound. There's no train anymore. The train ended in 1997. So it's been like almost 30 years since there's been a train in this corridor. So yeah, people still don't believe me when I say that here in Virginia, I'm closer to New York City than I was growing up in Buffalo, New York. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, Mohawk like was exclusively an essential air service provider, I think. Um, Well, so I'm going tomorrow. I'm going to be getting a tour of the Pendleton Airport, which is the only flight is an essential air service flight that goes between Pendleton and Portland. But when we were stopping in Pendleton on the way out, we were talking with some older folks there, and one of the things that they do is they drive to Walla Walla, um, which is about a 2-ish hour drive to get to about a 2-ish hour drive to get to the um it's the next state over, but it's like the tri closest to the Tri-Cities area. Um, but they'll drive the Walla Walla airport, and then there's a Walla Walla essential air service flight that goes between Walla Walla and Seattle. And the parking at the Walla Walla airport is free. So there's no TSA as well at the Pendleton airport. So they have some very interesting radio ads. I'm pretty excited about this little piece that we're going to do. Um, yeah, exactly. Moving from country to country with a simple 2 hour train. And the train leaves like, there's like 10 trains a day that'll get you to, you know, other countries. It's very nice. And then in Canada, yeah, you spend just that long to get into a major city. Absolutely. I did a whole thesis on the history of Ithaca transportation. I would love to read that. That sounds uh, very interesting. The Meanwhile, mom is like, I was wondering how the transport was. Well, that's part of the reason that we're out here is we're talking about it because one of they're trying to bring back the train line, but I mean, train development moves really slowly. Um, and you know, one of the people I was talking to this morning is like, well, why can't we just do it to LeGrand? Because there's plenty of freight trains. There's like 40 freight trains a day that go through Baker. Because this is like historically logging country and ranching country, trains are used as transport all the time out here for freight. And And the freight goes also to the ports as well. So there's a lot of freight trains that go through. The train horns has been a whole thing in this town where the train horns go off like all night long. And some people don't want to get rid of them because they like the nostalgia of the train horns, which is bizarre because they go all night. I'm going to repeat this, and this is not a journalistic fact. This is just pure gossip and rumor and absolutely probably not true. But there is a rumor that one of the train engineers dated someone who lived in Baker, and they broke up with them, and that's why they lean on the horn every time they go through Baker City, which I love the idea of the pettiness of that. I don't think this is actually true, but my friends say the trains only stop between 1 and 4 a.m., which is crazy. Yeah, that is true for most of them. I know. They can't even get a single passenger rail here. I was chatting with someone who said that they, like 10 years ago, saw a passenger rail train up about like 20 miles north of Baker City, and they never had any explanation for what it was or why it was there. So, David, you have the only complete collection of Ithaca Transit bus roll signs. How many roll signs do you have? You don't live in that big of an apartment. Where are these things being stored? I need to know more about that. But yeah, so we're talking about that. We're also talking about like I'm mostly reporting on the maternity closure and like how much of a struggle this is. It sounds like I will be able to get this piece together pretty quickly because people have a lot of opinions on it. So we will find that out. Your roll sign closet? I'm just jealous because I have zero closets at all. So I want a roll sign closet. Every time I find roll signs that are like on eBay, some of the transit agencies will put up their old stuff on eBay. They're always like outrageously expensive. I'm always curious who's the one that are buying these. TriMet auctioned them off like a while back, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Are you talking about closing the maternity facility? Well, it already closed. It closed 2 years ago. So no, it's a really big deal. I talked to a person who, uh, that essentially, if you are at risk or it's the winter, because these passes close all the time. Like these are mountain highways. They get pretty extreme weather up here in the winter, but then also in the summer they get wildfire. They uh, the um, uh, People will go down to Boise if they're expecting like weeks early, and if they have family there, then they can kind of stay there. Some people have the ability to like work remote during the last couple weeks of their pregnancy, but it's very risky. And I talked to someone who did not. I guess I won't scoop myself because I think they were a pretty good source, but uh, had a pretty harrowing birth experience and essentially did not make it to the hospital in the Grand. So it's really a mess. They took away admitting privileges from the obstetricians in town. So yeah, but it's amazing how upset people are. There's almost no trust left for this hospital, and it's kind of a shame. This hospital is like an 120-year-old hospital. It's been serving this like small community for a really long time, and it got bought out by this like larger conglomerate, and they just do not care about the local community. There's been talk about possibly getting a health district and having the like government manage it. But this is an area where they really don't like the government to be involved in things and they don't like taxes. So the chance of getting the health district is unlikely to happen. So many of my roll signs I own under a restrictive covenant. I agree that anyone I agree that anyone I transfer the sign to would agree to the conditions. What are the conditions? I want to know what the restrictive covenant are. How do you determine which ones you rotate out for display? Like, is it like seasonal? Are you like, oh, it's time for Ithaca because it's the fall colors? It's the orange district. Fuzz Bubble says, what is a health district? So a health district would be essentially, and some other smaller towns have them and they kind of do better, but it's essentially a levy that's filed. And then that would provide support for what the local healthcare facilities. So it might be wresting control of the local hospital from the company that bought it, which doesn't seem to care that much about it, and putting it under county control. It could just be providing restrictive grants from the health district to like reopen the birth center. It's really unclear, how exactly it would factor out, but a lot of other smaller towns that have kind of also had this problem have implemented health districts and are having a better, better luck with it. So like a lot of places will have hospital levies in big cities. So Winter said we had a health district where I lived in Washington. It funded the local hospital. Yeah, and even like in big cities they have these as well. But the big reason to do it in a smaller area is that they're never going to be well served by a larger entity that comes in that's not part of the community. I had trouble even getting I gave like 2 months notice to the local hospital about wanting media access and like to interview them. And they couldn't get it together. And, there's been some like local community surveys that have done pretty extensive asking people about how they feel about the owners of the hospital. And it is not positive. So why do people cut the signs into pieces and sell them individually? For a roll sign, that seems odd. Like for the inside, I need to know. It's based on size and preference. Some of them don't fit into the holders I have. Interesting. All right. I do have to go to yoga. I'm going to the one yoga class a day in this small town tonight. And then we have an early call time tomorrow. So how about people tell me what they were looking forward to? By the way, there is no vegan donut because there are no vegan donuts in Baker City. There is a like local health food co-op, but they're open like not that many days a week. And they're down to one grocery store, which is another thing everybody is upset about because they also now have one pharmacy because their Rite Aid and their Safeway closed. And so now it's just Albertsons and it's actually like not big enough to support the community. It's not a very good grocery store and it's the only pharmacy now. So there's talk that the hospital pharmacy might be open to other people, but apparently it takes a lot of regulations to do that. So, but everybody is complaining about that. I thought you were going to say there are no vegans. Actually, there's a couple places that have vegan options. Baker City is kind of interesting because it's like half ranchers and half artists. So it's not as challenging. I found a yoga class in this rural town. Well, that's the thing is like you've got a lot of these artists that move out to Baker City. And so there's a lot of yoga studios. I don't know how many has sustained themselves. There's two right now that are like up and functioning. So no donuts, no cats, not even a Tuesday. But I enjoy being here. Well, I think if Aaron is still listening, Aaron could make a cat appear. We could make a cat appear because Aaron is controlling this from home. So Um, Ooh, puppy class graduation is for Ajax tomorrow. Very cute. Very cute. I have been obsessed with this question because I read this like novel where in it someone moved back to their small hometown and they opened a yoga studio, but it was like the whole thing was about it being a small town. And I was just like, I want to know, how big does a town need to be to make a yoga studio economically sustainable? So I've been trying to figure out the answer to that question. And I'm very curious because even in the city, most yoga instructors, they have to work at multiple studios if it's their only job. Like most yoga instructors will have another job. And sometimes the studio owners will have another job, but if they're a big studio, then usually they won't have another job. Um, but like, there's just not enough of a population. There's not enough people that would like pay the like monthly membership fee. There's not enough labor to like have enough classes a day to meet that need. So I'm really curious. Obviously, your overhead costs are going to be a lot lower in a small town as long as it's not a small town that has crazy high costs like a ski town or something like that. Like if you're in Sun Valley, Idaho, I'm sure you could sustain a yoga studio off of, you know, very expensive memberships, but your overhead would be really high because like rent is really high. But in Baker City, that's not true. Like the cost for commercial space, there's tons of empty commercial spaces because this is like a really old town. So it's got all these like Wild West, like empty commercial spaces on the main drag. And they currently have two empty grocery stores side by side because the Rite Aid is closed and the Rite Aid is closed and the Safeway is closed. So they've got these like huge giant empty spaces, which are like obviously too large for a yoga studio, but that gives you an idea. There's plenty of like empty real estate here and the cost is much lower than what it would be in Portland. I feel like hot yoga would be very expensive here because your utilities are really high in the winter already because of how snowy it is and because a lot of the housing stock is older, so it tends to not be terribly well insulated. Like this building is from the 1890s, so it's just not well insulated. And obviously this has high ceilings too because it's an old commercial space. I can't change the settings to bring the cat cam in while the stream is going. Oh, why not? Sounds like a Hallmark movie. Move to small town is always in the opening. I absolutely, you could set a Hallmark movie in Baker City. I guarantee it. It is like a town that gets very snowy. You know, I feel like in the Hallmark Christmas movies, you always get stuck in the town. Like you like visit your family or you are driving and then you got snowed in and then you have to stay there. This is absolutely a town where that is true. And it's a town where everyone's going to know your business. And there's a bunch of quirky businesses, just like there always are in the Hallmark movie. There's always like a bakery that's also a florist. A WNBA player owns the bakery in town that everyone goes to here called the Sweet Wife. So yeah, a retired WNBA player moved to a small town and opened a bakery. So just going to say that's absolutely a thing. Just a yoga studio or a combination massage spa place that also has a lot of yoga classes. We have the latter in the town of about 20K. So I guess my question is like, for the latter, is the person doing the body work also the owner of the yoga studio? And do they have like other staff? And what's their overhead? I have a lot of follow-up questions. Because here it seems like there's a lot of like bodywork places that just don't really offer yoga classes, or if they do, it's like a once a week sunrise class or something like that, where they do it outside. But there are a lot of bodywork places, and I think it's probably because there's a lot of people that are from bigger cities that decided to move out to Baker that have these like the bodywork skills or certifications or massage certifications. Because I feel like the people that are likely to get that are there is a Venn diagram of people that are likely to get a massage or a bodywork certification that are also likely to upend their life and move to a small town in Oregon, a small artsy but also ranchery small town. Some employees are karma and unpaid. Yeah, see, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I mean, I get it if it's like your front desk employees, but I don't think your instructors should be if your students are paying, your instructors should be getting paid. But I could see your front desk doing that. But also, if it's a really small yoga studio, the instructors can just check people in. You don't really need that. But you usually need a marketing person if you're not going to do it as a studio owner. Okay. I'm looking forward to riding my motorbike again this week once it stops raining. Uh, yes, that sounds exciting. Is it going to stop raining? Isn't that the beginning of rainy season? When does rainy season officially start in the part of the UK that you're in? Because ours are like, we're about 3 weeks out from full on rainy season. We did have a thunder and lightning storm here the other night, which was very exciting because we don't get lightning very often on the west side of Oregon. So, okay, good. I feel relieved that there's not karma teachers. I'm very curious. It seems like you need to have a certain carrying capacity of regular students, and I think there's certain towns where that's just not going to be true. You're just not going to have a successful kind of place to do that. A new gym just opened in town, and it's like $30 a month, and it's like one of the former Y instructors decided to open his own place, but it's $5 for the sauna, and we were considering going to it. But it was closed yesterday, and I think it's closed today because it's Labor Day. But it like literally just opened last week, so. Yes, Erin, if you just describe the feline shenanigans, we might be able to make pictures in our head. Our summer has so far alternated between boiling and raining. All the plants have grown so much this year. I knock on wood because there's still time. It's like 91 outside right now, so that what is that? It's like around 35, no, 32. It's like 32 Celsius outside in Baker right now, and it is hot. But it has not been like the crazy amount of hot that it has been in some other places. Like last summer, it was like over 100 for like more days than you could imagine. And it started early with heat this summer in Portland. So I think a lot of us were worried that that was going to continue. But it didn't. Machka just chased a flat piece of cardboard around on the floor. Now Machka is sitting in what appears to be a calm position on the floor, except her tail is doing angry flicks. Is she still looking at the cardboard? This is a very important detail. I appreciate the description that we're getting here. All right, y'all. I should probably head out. So, Newbold One is looking forward to motorbiking. What else are people looking forward to? I don't think other people told me what they're looking forward to this week. It's been lovely to have you here. Thank you for coming in on a day when I don't have a donut, I don't have a cat, and it's not a Tuesday. I'm going to be in Pendleton tomorrow, and I have an airport tour in the afternoon, so I just didn't want to risk doing the 4:30 live stream. And since it's a holiday in the US, I was like, yeah, some people will be available at 4:30 on a different day. Kugel is sitting on the stool above her, looking down at Machka. That sounds accurate, extremely accurate. Prox, do you want to say anything to the stream? Wait, if you sit up and kind of look past, I think they'll be able to see you. You're just a tiny dot in the background. They can see you wave, but they probably can't hear much of what you're saying because you're not mic'd up. Brock says, Machka is my girl. Hope she gets that piece of cardboard. So there you go. Uh, Julie is visiting Portland for Rose City Comic Con and seeing my niece for her 6th birthday. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Oh, now everybody's jumped in because I asked them to say what they're looking forward to. It's been a calm start to the school year. Looking forward to more calm. I think you need some calm. You had a very stressful last month, so I hope it is. And then your final year can be a calm as you go into retirement. I love that for you. Aaron says, oh my God, has she been there the whole time? Yes, Prox has been there the whole time. She was well hidden. Aaron says we can't hear her at all. That's okay. That's why I repeated the mic. I knew that she was awake because I heard her chuckling at the Machka anecdotes. She is cut from the same cloth. Corey says after Palooza. Okay, here's the thing about after Palooza. I am exhausted at the end of 3 weeks of Pedal Palooza. Why would I possibly do after Palooza? I think we need a break before we start after Palooza. The idea that after Palooza starts immediately after Pedal Palooza when Pedal Palooza is now 12 weeks long, give me a break. I need a break. She looks like she's sitting on her your shoulder. Is she the angel or the devil? Are you the angel on my shoulder or the devil on my shoulder? Yeah. Devil. I think she really likes to encourage me to spend money. She's always like, you're not going to be back here. You might as well get it. Yes. Corey says that's what the rainy season is for. No, I kind of like that better. Someone did contact me because for 2 or 3 years, I led a pumpkin patch ride, and they were like, "Oh, we really want to do it, but you didn't do it last year." I do want to do it again this year. I have to get off work to lead it because it has to be on a weekend. I was considering doing it on a Monday and just like hoping that people could come out on a Monday or a Tuesday to the pumpkin patch. But like, I was also like, what if we did it late and we went to the haunted maze? I don't know if people would be up for that. The only downside is that like I try to leave early in the morning. So it's like to Savi Island, so biking out there. I try to leave early in the morning so that we can like avoid traffic on the highway out to Savi Island. And if I do that, then I have to take off work. If we start later, we'll have traffic out there. And weirdly, both times that we did this ride, even though it was like in late October, it was hot. And so it was actually like kind of hot if we had left later. Like we were all very hot on the way back. So I don't know. I kind of like better the rainy season rides because there's fewer of them, and it's like easier to connect with people, and they usually start earlier, which I do like because I feel like not as many of them start at like 8 p.m. But there's always this, I always get in this mode at the end of the summer, like around mid-September in Portland, I'm starting to be like, oh, I kind of want the rain to come because I am exhausted by how many social engagements happen during the summer. And I kind of just want everybody to be inside for a little while. I look forward to only working 3 days and then having another 3-day weekend. That sounds great. That's awesome. Are you also taking off Tuesday, or do you have like, oh no, you're off Friday, so that's why you're working 3 days and then, oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I am going to try to take Friday off because I haven't had a day off in a while. So I am hoping I can take Friday off because I also have a long day tomorrow. So we'll see. I do need to make sure that the bus is coming to pick us up in the morning. Yeah. Um, Hoping I can finish reupholstering my dining room chair this week. I also hope you can finish reupholster your dining room chair this week. How complicated of a dining room chair this is, because usually that's not like a very involved project. But I'm wondering if you have to like sand the chair or two, or if it's a more overstuffed dining room chair. Because if it's just the bottom, it's usually a fast job. So I hope you can get it done too. All right. I don't think I'm adding much. It's been lovely to hang out with all you guys. Thanks for bearing with the complicated method that we had for live streaming. This is really reminding me of like I was able to do my job and host Weekend Edition through OPB, but from a community radio studio in Baker City yesterday. And this kind of doing it through Zoom, where Aaron is running it through the home stream deck, feels very similar. So thank you all. It's been lovely. And thank you, Aaron, for running the stream. And yeah, will be the normal Tuesday time next week. I might do another random stream between now and then. Until next week, stay safe, stay hydrated, pet a cat if you have one available, and I will see you all soon. Bye.